Welcome to Scripps News Tonight. I'm Christian Bryant in Washington. Developing now, more than $83 million. That's how much a jury says Donald Trump has to pay for making defamatory statements against E. Jean Carroll, the writer who accused the former president of sexual assault. That's on top of a $5 million payout another jury ordered last year over the same issue. National political correspondent Alex Miller has been following the courtroom drama from the beginning.
Nearly a week's worth of testimony, and a New York jury decided E. Jean Carroll's case against Donald Trump in less than 3 hours. A jury ordered former President Donald Trump to pay $83.3 million to E. Jean Carroll for defaming her. That award includes $65 million in punitive damages, meant to deter the former president from continuing to speak about her. Carroll accused Trump of raping her in 1996 and defaming her by repeatedly calling her a liar and her accusation a hoax. Last year, a different jury awarded Carroll $5 million in damages, finding she had been sexually assaulted and defamed. This verdict addresses the comments he made over 2 days in 2019 as president. Trump called the verdict ridiculous in an online post. He repeated his claim the trial was a politically motivated witch hunt, and he will appeal.
Don't get it twisted. We are seeing a violation of our justice system.
It was an unusual day in court, with the judge continually reprimanding Trump's legal team. Then early in Carroll's lawyers' closing arguments, Trump abruptly left the courtroom. The judge noted it for the record. Trump returned for his side's closing, but left before the verdict. Alina Habba insisted Carroll didn't prove a direct connection between Trump's statements and any harm she might have suffered. In fact, she argued Carroll benefited from the attention and accused her of using Trump to promote her brand and sell her books. Carroll's legal team emphasized that Trump's attacks have been ongoing. Roberta Kaplan told jurors money is the one thing that could stop him. A judge advised jurors never to disclose that they were on this trial. Trump criticized both verdicts in a Truth Social post, but one thing missing, any mention of E. Jean Carroll. Alex Miller, Scripps News, New York.
Mitchell Epner is an attorney with the firm Rottenberg Littman Rich in New York. He is also a former federal prosecutor and a legal expert, and joins us to talk about the decision and the impact it could have. Mitchell, good to have you back. I'm sure there's a journalist out there trying to do the math, how much money per defamatory statement. But I'm curious, do you think E. Jean Carroll will ever see any of that money?
I'm quite confident that she will. Right now, from the first trial, there's $5.5 million that's sitting with the court awaiting the decision on that appeal. If Donald Trump wants to avoid this $83 million verdict being immediately executed on, meaning seizing his assets, he will have to pay that money into the court as well. And once the money is paid into the court, if E. Jean Carroll wins the appeal, which I think is highly likely, she will get all of that money plus the interest.
Is there a way for the court to compel the former president to pay that money? You mentioned seizing assets. What sort of mechanisms are in place to enforce the ruling?
So the way it works, Donald Trump can take an appeal without paying the money in. But if he does that, starting 30 days from today, E. Jean Carroll can go to any state in the union, in New York, Florida, wherever, and enforce this judgment by seizing all of his personal property and putting liens against all of his real estate. She could literally seize all of his bank accounts.
Interesting. Okay, this helps explain exactly how that works. Trump's attorney, Alina Habba, spoke to reporters and stuck with her client's line, bringing politics into it all. Let's take a listen.
This is wrong, but we are in the state of New York. We are in a New York jury, and that is why we are seeing these witch hunts, these hoaxes, as he calls them. And this is another one of them. Be brought in New York, in states where they know they will get juries like this. It will not deter us.
All right, Mitchell, you heard Habba. Trump himself wrote on Truth Social that this was a politically motivated witch hunt. Is there any sign that there was anything political to do with this determination by this jury in New York?
The biggest problem that Donald Trump and Alina Habba had was Donald Trump and Alina Habba. I've practiced in front of Judge Kaplan. Judge Kaplan is a no-nonsense judge, and they were presenting nothing but nonsense. They had already lost this case on liability. The only question was damages, and they decided that the best plan was scorched earth and antagonize the judge. And I'll give the cleaned up version. If you fool around, you find out. And that's what happened today.
Mitchell. Yeah, I think a lot of our younger viewers will most certainly understand the expression. It's not hard to figure out, folks. Could her comments and others by Trump about Carroll, since this trial was underway, only wind up getting him in more trouble? Could there even be another defamation suit down the line based on what he's had to say throughout the course of this case?
I think that this today is probably a demarcation event, since the counsel for E. Jean Carroll very capably worked into their closing argument even things that Trump was saying on Truth Social today. If he's foolish enough to say it again starting tomorrow, I would not be surprised to see yet another defamation case where once again liability will be established and the only question will be damages.
Yeah, Mitchell, let's game this out just a little bit and give our viewers a little something to look forward to if this happens. Trump's lawyer says they will appeal, but also claim they can't get a fair hearing in New York anyway. So how would an appeal even play out here?
So the appeal will go to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, which covers New York, Vermont, and Connecticut. Since the first appeal is already underway, my guess is that they will be consolidated, and probably some point in the next 6 months, there will be a decision. And then if Trump loses, which I expect that he will, he could try to ask the Supreme Court to take the case. The Supreme Court does not have to, and I would be shocked if they did.
Wow. Former federal prosecutor Mitchell Epner, always giving it to us straight, no chaser. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Turning to our other top story, Ukraine's future and the fate of millions of its citizens is on the line and getting caught up in American election politics. Ukrainians continue to face Russian attacks daily, and they have no idea if they're going to get any more help from the U.S. Ukraine says they need more military aid now, but a border and foreign aid deal in Congress has been delayed again and again. Now it looks like it's barely clinging to life support. And the likely Republican presidential nominee is the one encouraging lawmakers to pull the plug. Reports emerged this week that former President Trump was pressuring Republicans to sink the deal being hammered out by a bipartisan group of lawmakers. And Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who backed the deal, told Republicans behind closed doors the politics have changed and that they, quote, don't want to do anything to undermine Trump. But this has made some Republican senators feel uneasy.
I hope no one is trying to take this away for campaign purposes.
Someone running for president ought to try and get the problem solved, as opposed to saying, hey, save that problem. Don't solve it. Let me take credit for solving it later.
But Trump himself left little doubt. On Truth Social, he posted in part, quote, we are better off not making a deal, going on to say a border deal now would be another gift to the radical left Democrats. Trump said the only hope for a secure border is to vote for him this fall. And important to remember, Trump has the ear of House Speaker Mike Johnson, who says this deal would be dead on arrival. National correspondent James Packard joins us now. James, House Speaker Mike Johnson says the deal coming out of the Senate would be a no-go in the House. So my question to you is, what's the prospect of getting this deal through?
It's looking very dim right now, Christian. I mean, we had previously heard from Mike Johnson for a long time now that the deal coming out of the Senate was not going to have much hope in the House. But now he's writing in a letter to GOP lawmakers in more detail about how truly dead he thinks this thing is on arrival. And remember, as you mentioned, he has been in close coordination with former President Donald Trump on this as he seeks to try to use it as a linchpin on the campaign trail. I want to read you a portion of what Speaker Johnson said to GOP lawmakers. He said, since the day I became Speaker, I have assured our Senate colleagues the House would not accept any counterproposal if it would not actually solve solve the problems that have been created by the administration's subversive policies, he says. Now, keep in mind, there is a proposal that was already sent from the House to the Senate that is not getting much appetite in the Senate. This bipartisan deal was just that, a bipartisan deal, which the House was not. The House deal was not. The White House has for months been trying to work with staff in both chambers to get this bipartisan deal through, Christian. And now, given this this conjecture from the Speaker, it doesn't seem that it's going to go anywhere.
Dead on arrival, he said. How is the White House responding to Trump's pressure campaign and the House Speaker?
Yeah, this is interesting, sort of a step up in this today. President Biden, in response to this talk from the Speaker of the House, released a statement that actually sort of also went back on what Donald Trump himself said, saying that if this deal went through, it would give him a new power, a new emergency authority to shut down the border to people who are not previously authorized to enter the United States if encounters got beyond 5,000 in one day, which is a benchmark that has been repeatedly hit in recent months. And he said that he would do that the day he signs the bill. That is some of the most stringent language we've heard from this president on the border. He also characterized it as a crisis, calling the border broken. These are terms that we haven't heard this president use a lot in relation to the border. And he also said this: securing the border through these negotiations is a win for America. For everyone who is demanding tougher border control, this is the way to do it. If you're serious about the border crisis, pass a bipartisan bill, and I will sign it. His spokesperson today, Karine Jean-Pierre, said this to reporters.
House Republicans, they have a choice to make, right? They have to choose whether they want to solve a problem, actually solve a problem like the Senate is trying to do in a bipartisan way, or get in the way and score political points. That's a decision that House Republicans have to make.
Christian, this is not a fight, a political fight just in Washington, D.C. anymore, a legislative fight. This is now a campaign fight as well between the current commander-in-chief and the former.
National correspondent James Packer. James, many thanks for your time. Coming up after the break, the top court of the United Nations hands down a series of orders to Israel. We'll tell you what they say and give you the reaction of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just ahead.